All right, well, welcome, folks. This is our regular Zoom conference call on NeoLife Nutritionals. My name is Mark Schoepp. I work with my wife, Becky. We're right now in Chicago, western Chicago suburbs, working with also Cindy Jamada. We have a promoter, my brother Dave's in Calgary, Alberta, up in Canada, and Katie Gross in Minneapolis, and the team that's building kind of all over the place, actually. That's what you can do with NeoLife. So we want to use these Thursdays to talk about a variety of things. Last week we used this time to talk about an introduction to NeoLife, and today it's on digestion. Then next week we're going to do blood sugar regulation. How do you manage that, and why? And critically, why is that important? A lot of people who have diabetes don't even know why it's an issue. And then my wife and I, Becky, were just yesterday, saw a wonderful webinar on the Mediterranean diet, and really helped get a handle on why that's really the best diet and why that matches up with how NeoLife does nutrition. And it matches with the Blue Zone. So we'll talk more about that. I think that'll be our next topic as well. We have to take some time to develop that. But today, I'm going to start sharing my screen. We want to talk about digestive health. So I want to make sure this is working. So I'm going to get a big screen. Just checking. Can you guys see and hear me? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We're going to talk about digestive health. We talk about core nutrition in NeoLife, and that's what the first thing we talk about is 4 core products that we think everybody sort of low on. And then once you've got that core nutrition built back up, then there's some targeted things people need to think about, and one of those is digestion. There's a lot of areas you can see around the circle there. So digestive health is critical, and a lot of pieces to that puzzle. If you think about it, if we start at the mouth and end at the anus, it's a long tube. Now, it changes over time what that tube is like, but food goes in the top end, waste comes out the bottom end, and we have to have some way of getting the food from that tube into the body. Otherwise, the cells starve because it just flows through and it's gone. But you'll see there's a way that it gets absorbed. So all of those are parts of the digestive system. And you can see sort of 6 steps, 6 stages. Diet, what you put in, digestion starts in the stomach, continues in the large intestines and small and large intestines, but that's also largely absorption. Then circulation has to get the blood, has to get it to the cells. Every cell has to have a blood vessel close to it. Assimilation, it gets into the cells, and then elimination is the waste comes out of the cells and has to go from there, from the very cells that poop waste out essentially, to how we poop waste out, and that's all part of the system of nutrition. So this is another way of looking at it. What we eat, how we digest it in our stomach, the absorption that happens in the small and large intestines, finally gets to the cells, gets into the cells, and then we eliminate it. And it's critical not to forget about the lymph system. Now, not strictly part of digestion, but helpful to think about when we think about elimination. Again, I said that the cells get rid of waste. They take food in, get waste out, right at the level of the cell. Well, that has to go somewhere. That's where the lymph system comes. It's collecting right from the cellular level, lymph systems all through the body, and it's essentially the sewer system for the body. Now, what's interesting is we found this out when Becky had lymph cancer, 92, a long time ago, Hodgkin's disease. And it turns out there's a blood system, a pump and all the vessels, veins and arteries. There's another system that's fluid. It's the lymph system, and that system has actually more fluid than the blood system does, but it has no pump. No pump at all. And the only pump, so to speak, for the lymph system to move fluid is by movement. And that's why movement is so critical. When we don't move, it's think in your basement. If your basement has, and all houses have this, there's a drain that goes out the basement hole somewhere, goes out to the sewer system in the city. If that backs up, sewage is coming up the system. And it's like that if we don't eliminate well, we're keeping waste, and those wastes are toxins. You actually can die quicker from constipation than you can from starving. So that's critical. And if we can ask you guys to mute yourselves, that'd be great. All right, so digestion, mouth, again, all of these pieces and secretions that happen. So there's fluids involved, salivary glands, the stomach acid, the gallbladder has bile, liver, and then finally pancreas has what am I trying to say, for diabetes, the insulin. And then also mechanical breakdown of food. You got to chew it, churns in the stomach. There's physical and chemical breakdown as well. The mouth, salivary juices, stomach, gastric juices. Intestines has enzymes, bile salts, and the beneficial microorganisms, which we're going to talk about. They're critical, and they're not actually us. They're actually totally not us. It turns out they're critical to our functioning, and there's actually more of those microorganism cells than there are our own cells. It's just a phenomenal kind of new thing we're learning about ourselves. So optimal health depends on good food choices. You got to put good stuff in. That's where actually most people start the problem. Proper breakdown of nutrients and absorption. Good balance of healthy gut flora. That's those bacteria. And then healthy elimination. All of those are critical for healthy digestive health. What are the factors that impact and impair healthy digestion? Well, first of all, it starts with putting the wrong stuff in, bad eating habits. As we age, our systems produce less of the critical stuff that we need in terms of the juices. Stress makes a huge difference to our system. Alcohol, excess alcohol and smoking do a bad number on our digestive system. Illness and disease can make a huge difference. And then what's interesting is we're finding out that certain drugs such as antibiotics and even over-the-counter pain meds make a huge dent in our digestive system. We'll show exactly what we mean by that later on. And then genetics play a factor, but they're not. If you do better at the very beginning of this thing, poor eating habits, the genetic factors can be reduced. Genetic things like type 1 diabetes is often more of a genetic factor. Well, you still gotta produce insulin somehow, and if your body can't, then you got to take outside insulin. But there's also things you can do in terms of diet that help that. So common problems with digestion. Well, heartburn, flatulence, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, upset stomach, and of course much worse. We know a number of people who are dealing with dramatic implications. Two gals I know of. One has a thing called a J pouch. She had colitis for so long it wasn't dealt with properly, and so they had to remove her large intestine. The whole colon's gone. And so either you have a colostomy, which is a bag on the outside of your body, or the J pouch is you take the tail end of the small intestine and hook that up to the anus and still sort of manage to make it work. But that badly compromises your digestive system. Best situation is don't let that happen and deal with it early on. So again, digestive system, lots of things can go bad in the esophagus. The other gal I'm talking to has what's called Barrett's esophagus. There's acids from the stomach making the esophagus damaged. That's often precancerous, and esophagus cancer is a deadly cancer, nothing to play with. And then of course, stomach, people have, for weight loss purposes and other reasons, cut their stomach in half, essentially, staple their stomach. And it doesn't really fix the problem if you're not dealing with your whole system of digestion well, especially what you put in. And then the colon, small and large intestines can be badly affected. So lots of things to think about. So here's common reasons for digestive problems. First thing is counterintuitive. Most of the advertisements today will tell you that people have too much acid. HCl is stomach acid. Fact is 60% or more have too little, and that's a whole different problem. And if you're treating it like there's too much, it causes all kinds of cascading problems. Overburdened enzyme. Enzymes are so acid in the stomach, enzymes in the intestines, large and small intestines. And then lactase is for dealing with milk products. Unbalanced intestinal flora, that's mostly in the small and large intestines. And then on the fiber, we have dramatically increased our salt intake. I mean, like dramatically increased our salt. And on that same magnitude, decreased fiber. It's a recipe for disaster. And then stress, of course, just totally messes with the imbalance. When you feel stress, where? You feel it in your gut. And that's not an accident. That's because it's throwing that balance off. And here's what happens. The common approach is to do symptoms only. And that often makes the underlying problems worse. I'm convinced that this gal that I told you about that has a J pouch, if she had addressed the problem earlier in an appropriate way, she would not have had a J pouch. Antacids, oh, hang on, I'm going to back up. Antacids, acid blockers, and laxatives that sell over the counter do not address the problems. Here's an example of a video. This is a heartburn video. You'll recognize the color, and you recognize the company from the color. I'll just let the video play. Can you hear this? Yes.
When you eat, acid is produced by proton pumps in your stomach. This acid helps digest food. Sometimes acid escapes the stomach into the esophagus, which has no protective lining. When this happens, you experience a burning sensation that rises from your chest to your neck and throat. This is heartburn, and it can be quite painful. There are 3 main over-the-counter treatments for heartburn. Antacids neutralize stomach acid, but only work for 1 to 3 hours, so they must be taken often. H2 antagonists block one of 3 signals that tells your body to produce acid. They typically last 8 to 12 hours, but if taken more than a few days in a row, they can become less effective. Nexium 24-hour is a PPI, or proton pump inhibitor. PPIs work differently. Are the only treatment specifically approved for frequent heartburn, which is heartburn that occurs 2 or more days a week. PPIs stop heartburn by turning off many of the pumps that produce acid. When taken each morning as directed, Nexium 24-hour gives you 24-hour protection from frequent heartburn. All day, all night. This is Nexium level protection.
Okay, now, let me be clear. I am not pushing Nexium. I'm trying to do exactly the opposite, in fact. They talked about 3 options, and they said the first 2 only were short-term, implying that Nexium is a long-term option. If you read this stuff on the labels say you shouldn't take it very long. But the medical profession is saying, no, we're fine, keep taking it. And the trouble is that all that does is mask the problem. And especially, now, some people do have more acid than they need, and then you have to deal with that. But there's a way to deal with that on the front end, what you put into your system. And if your problem is, in fact, not enough acid, then what's happening is the bubbling up of acid is because instead of digesting the food, what the stomach is doing is the food is fermenting. It's boiling. And the gas that's produced from that spoilage, that fermenting, is causing the bubbling and the acid to bubble up into the esophagus, not because you have too much acid, but because the digestion is not happening properly. And so the challenge is, again, it's masking this problem, and people are, well, not to mention the fact that with less acid, there's less actual digestion happening. So what gets flushed out of the stomach is partially digested food. The system is not geared to deal with partially digested food down the tract. So how do you deal with the best way to deal with problems of digestion? The first best way is put healthy stuff in. Well-balanced diet, high in fresh fruits and vegetables, and we'll talk later on about the Mediterranean diet. That's in spades, legumes, whole grains. That's the healthiest food you can eat. Low, however, in high fatty foods, in preserved and processed, cured and salted foods, red meat, and other kind of problematic foods. So you have to deal with that. And then on the bottom of that, you can see on the bottom of the pyramid, physical activity and weight management. The physical activity helps the lymph system, but it also helps the digestive system. Everything is in better balance when there's motion. So stomach, intestine, and colon. Stomach, we have to, again, put better food in, less acidic food, fiber, etc., those good things. And then here's the the stage of absorption, this is the intestine, small and large intestine. Now, if you think about it, if there's no way for the food particles, the nutrients, to get out of that tube, the cells at the cellular level, they're going to starve to death because there's nothing getting to the cells. So that tube has to have some way to get stuff out of it. And that happens for the most part in the intestines, large and small intestines. And I want to show this. If you may have heard the term called leaky gut. Leaky gut is a thing that happens in your intestines. And again, here's you looking. If this is where the bumps are is the inside of the intestine, and the smooth is on the outside of the intestine. So you're looking down sort of cross section of the intestinal tube. And here's the kind of things that can affect leaky gut: stress, toxins, food particles, all various different kinds of drugs make this happen. Pathogens. And then organ malfunction, often that can also be an issue. I shouldn't say often, sometimes. It's actually more happens from the previous ones. So here again is that tube. One end, that's inside the gut, that's inside the body. And then one end to the mouth, one end to the anus. And then here you have, between these cells here, you have what they call, there's a bunch of them in the intestines, they call them tight junctions. And that's exactly what they are. They only let through certain size particles and certain kind of particles. And that's where, when nutrients go, nutrients are essentially coming through those junctions. When the right kind of nutrient at the right size comes through there, it's picked up by the bloodstream and sent off to all the cells in the body. However, when all these top factors factor in, those tight junctions you can see don't become tight anymore. They become inflamed and they become loose and bigger than they're supposed to be, so that bigger food particles get out than are normal, and toxins get out that aren't supposed to be out there into the body. And you have all kinds of issues with food intolerance. In other words, you become allergic to food. We didn't have allergies to food until this recent development of this, what they call leaky gut. And then immune system issues, also called autoimmunity, where we attack ourselves, and that's all part of this leaky gut. It's not supposed to be it's supposed to let food out, but it's not supposed to be over leaky. Okay. Here's the things that happen when there's inappropriate pieces of nutrients or toxins getting out: brain, depression, anxiety, ADHD; skin, acne, rosacea, eczema, psoriasis; thyroid, Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, and Graves; colon, constipation and diarrhea both, and irritable bowel; adrenals, fatigue; joints, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, and headaches; sinus and mouth, frequent colds; food sensitivities. So all of those things, and they're all caused by the same thing, which is fixable by a dramatic change in diet. You've got to, again, put much better stuff in. And when I say dramatic, you just got to eat healthier stuff. Our diet is just really not very healthy typically, and it's causing lots of these kind of problems. So healthy gut flora, probiotics, you've heard that term, I'm sure. In the intestine, you have to have bacteria that is not us. It's a whole separate organism, and lots of it, and diverse, lots of different kinds. They aid in digestion, they improve lactose intolerance, they inhibit the bad bacteria, the good bacteria inhibit the bad bacteria, and they aid in absorption of minerals, and they prevent diarrhea. And then so you gotta promote that colon health, and you can do detoxification. We just do it on ourselves. You detoxify, which the better term, I like it because it resets the stomach flora, the gut flora, excuse me, and supports healthy colon cells. It's the gut is often the center for immunity, and naturally guards against infection, promotes a healthy response to foods in infants as well. And then the gut-brain connection, there's a strong direct connection in nerves between what's happening in the gut and what happens in the brain. So mental health and depression are directly tied to the gut. So more benefits of probiotics: foundation for good health, nutrition, physiological function, immune response, and that increases. And what you decrease is indigestion, infection, diarrhea, irritable bowel, and the like. So elimination is part of the process as well. The problems can be, again, starts with poor food choices, low fiber. If you don't have a bowel movement at least once a day, that's not good. We found out from Becky's dad In his last days, he was doing once a week. That's a major sign of trouble, and he just ignored it. Constipation, irregularity, and discomfort, those are all things that you got to deal with. And the problem is that many laxatives, when you say, well, I'll go to the drugstore, I'll buy something to help me poop, it'll help me eliminate. The trouble is that those, over time, if you use them a lot, will harm the body's natural ability to work on its own. Their chemicals will add to the leaky gut problem, and it's, again, fix the symptoms rather than fix the problem. So stress-induced digestive discomfort, it's caused by excess stress, the stomach acid, you get ulcers, all kinds of things. You have to deal with the stress before it deals with you. And work, home, money, that can be from, those are internal factors such as nutrition, fitness, rest, and emotional. And they all lead to digestive challenges that have to be dealt with. So elimination is the process of eliminating waste from the body. That's getting the toxins from our own natural production of energy in our cells. We send the cells send out waste that's toxic. We got to get that into the lymph system and out of the body. And they are, so I said before, constipation worse than starvation. You have to get this stuff out. Where do they come from? Well, just metabolism, just the cell's production of energy produces toxins. They also we bring them in with our food, the dyes, the pesticides, all kinds of things, and they have to be eliminated in order to maintain good health. So healthy immune function tied to the probiotics in our guts, and there's ways of supplementing that that can help with immune function, nervous system, hormones, mood, weight, balance, brain function, energy, heart, etc. It's hard to overestimate the importance of a healthy gut on the overall health of a person. And again, whole food nutrition, this is the best way to stay healthy overall, is put good stuff in at the start and in the appropriate balance. And we'll talk about that on another call. So what does NeoLife do to help with these problems? They don't deal with the symptoms, they actually deal with the problems. This is the founder, Jeremy Brasfield, 60 years old now, a pioneer in whole food nutrition, lots of milestone achievements that are industry firsts. And this is the scientific advisory board that was started by Arthur First. Arthur First was he's died since, but was a world-renowned toxicologist focused on cancer therapy. Finally wanted to work more on the prevention side. He looked around for a company and found NeoLife. He found us and said, this is the best company in terms of what I see with your products, but I want to help you. We're going to boost what we do. And he formed a scientific advisory board that the science board drives the products, not the market drives the products. In other words, here's a fad diet. I guess NeoLife better have one of those fad products. No, we don't do fad products. We do based on what works in the body. So again, based in nature, backed by science, that's our motto for our products. Whole food sourced and maximum nutrient absorption, utilization, and benefit. That's critical. So here's specific products for the stomach. If you are like most people, in fact, who have less than enough acid, you can add acid. At about 40, I started having gas. And the issue was not enough. My age contributed to my not producing enough acid. And so this helped. Gas went away when I added some Beta-Gest. And I didn't have to keep doing it over a long haul. That sort of balanced me back out. And sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But it is, again, fixing the problem, not masking the symptoms. And then this is enzymes, which targets the intestines. Broad spectrum, potent, natural, again, all our stuff naturally sourced and targeted to get, it will not break down and disappear in the stomach. You have to get the enzymes through the acid of the stomach into the intestines. And again, it addresses the causes of indigestion, not just the symptoms. And here's a double pack. These are packed together, so you can put this in your pocket and take it all day long if that's what you need to do over time. Acidophilus is our probiotic, as good as it gets. And lots of live active cultures get there because, again, it's delivered, gets through the stomach without being destroyed, and breaks down to the very tippy top of the large intestine, small intestine, excuse me. And more information about it. 1 acidophilus plus capsule equals 10 servings of yogurt. or acidophilus enriched milk. And the trouble with the yogurt and milk is that stuff has it in the systems. Although if it's processed enough, there also isn't anything in there. But it won't make it through the acid of the stomach. You have to have a better delivery system. And this talks about that delivery system, protecting it and delivering it to where it needs to go. And here's a drink that this gal who I talked about that had Barrett's esophagus, has Barrett's esophagus, the gal who ended up with J-pouch, this would have been a major help in terms of her functionality. Aloe vera, aloe has been around centuries and used a lot for healing purposes. NeoLife has developed for long ago. This has been around a long, long time in our 60-year history. A very, very healthy, health-inducing, healing-inducing drink. Small dosages a day, 1 ounce a day, but makes a huge difference. I was taking a single aspirin, baby aspirin a day as preventative with heart history in my family, chewing my stomach up big time, had to stop taking those, needed a way to heal my gut. This I took, didn't have to take it for long, but I needed some help to heal the gut back up again. And then fiber, you have to have good fiber level, and our food, if you're eating processed food, it's not in there. We have to support that health with fiber. And this is, there's different kinds of fiber, soluble, insoluble, all kinds of things that you got to think about. Well, NeoLife's processed all of those, and they know what you need. First of all, start with natural food, and you get all of those things naturally, and then fill the gaps with this stuff from NeoLife as you need to. And then Neolax, this is a very natural form of laxative that for the occasional bouts of constipation, although, again, very, very gentle. My wife, because of her cancer history and chronic issues because of the cancer treatments, the chemo and the radiation, she has major digestive issues now and elimination issues. She takes this on a regular basis, and it doesn't mess with her system and allows her to eliminate properly in a way that, and of course, the drugs also affect, one of the side effects is constipation. So it would be an ugly world for Becky without Neolax to help out. And again, formulas that have been around for years, these are the things that are in there, and we know from experience they work well. Garlic. This is does a number of things. It's good for heart health, but it's also healthy for the gut because garlic tends to be really hard on the bad bacteria, the unhelpful bacteria in our gut. And so this is part of our detox that we will talk briefly about later on. And all the benefits, as it says at the bottom, all the benefits of fresh raw garlic without the garlic breath, and critical factor. Now, I'm going to pause, and maybe if there's questions to ask, we can ask those now. I'll give a second or two for that to happen. But I think I might, not hearing any, just continue quick to the 3-day detox. Very quickly, we just finished this. I just finished this. I do this about once a quarter, once every 6 months or so. They put a very simple system together. Again, you got to get the toxins out. And that's true. It does have, we have a product in there that does pull the toxins, the heavy metals, and all kinds of things out of the system. Again, I like it most because in addition to the detoxifying, it resets the stomach flora. It flushes the gut and resets that with healthier products. So it can also jumpstart weight loss. I did this, so it's a 3-day detox. I lost 3 to 4 pounds in that 3 days. So it's a nice way to jumpstart a weight loss program if you want to do that. And slows premature aging. Getting rid of those free radicals that are sort of accumulating in our system is helpful. So that, a lot of that gets stored in the fat cells that we have in our body. We all have fat cells whether we're obese or not, and this helps get rid of that stuff. And then an increase in energy as our system is really sort of reset and rejuvenated. Here's what it looks like. Pretty simple. 3 days and 2 steps basically, and then adds the proven probiotics at the end. The Neolax supports elimination. The garlic is hard on the bad bacteria and is trying to get rid of those. And Beta-Guard is what we talk about is the detoxifier, the pulling the heavy metals and et cetera, all the toxins out of the body, and developed by Arthur First a while back. And then acidophilus is what you put back in at the end of the detox and for a few days afterwards. So how does it work? Day 1 and day 2, it's basically a fruit and vegetable fast, they call it. So nothing but raw fruits and vegetables, maybe lightly steamed. Eat as much as you want. Don't go hungry. And then take these pills in the morning, 2 Neolax, 1 garlic, and 3 Betagard. In the evening, another 2 Neolax and 1 garlic. Eat again, only fruit, fresh or lightly steamed fruits and vegetables. Drink lots of fluids. You can drink some tea and coffee, but it has to be black. And then the third day, you can start with a NeoLife shake, another 3 Betagard, and this time now you're adding the acidophilus, the probiotics back in. And then for the evening meal, back to a regular meal the third day out, and then lots of water again. Then that's the detox. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And if I can find my mouse, say, where'd my mouse go? Hang on. I lost my mouse. Up. Nope. There it is. All right, stop sharing. There we go. All right. So that's the story about digestion. And we'll pause the recording.